growing up in Bristol, I was very conscious of our maritime heritage, not over our livelihood that depended on it. I had a family that worked in the docks here, but certainly at school we were taught about the Matthew with John Cabot, the investment from Italian bankers, Henry VII patent, go out and capture new worlds. So that was everywhere where you grew up. Obviously, we were educated on the slave trade and the impact it had on Bristol in particular, but moreover, moving forward, it was that connection with Brunel, the SS Great Britain, that first real transatlantic steamer, the work in which these industrialists and entrepreneurs had, the investment that they just didn't have in ship design, construction and moving the boundaries, but also civil engineering, whether it was the railways, the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Later in life I come to discover that these industrialists were really behind the development of naval architecture. I really wanted to go out and travel. I wanted to see the world. So it was a no-brainer for me at a very early age to go to sea. I started in the British military, so that was a good eye-opener to see how the military side of it works, but you've got that interconnection to global trade. So again, that gave me a very good first appraisal of what commercial shipping means as an island nation as well. I spent quite a few years at sea and mainly hydrographic surveying, so that was very, very good seamanship. I thoroughly enjoyed the job. But back in the 90s, autonomy started to kick in, and I was really showing an interest in how the ship systems integrate. So that's really the first appreciation I had of systems integration. I wanted to learn how the structures work, how we design a ship. Therefore I decided I spent enough time at sea, I wanted to come ashore and learn how to design ships and vessels. I've been very fortunate to be involved in quite a lot of projects during my naval architecture career in particular, mainly in the submarine support management, offshore oil and gas, transportation, installation, design, construction, but also many other projects to do with claims and claims investigation, namely a few Deepwater Horizon jumps out. It's quite an interesting claims investigation project, but moreover design, jack-ups in particular, done a lot of design with jack-ups, ship repair, salvage. I'm one of these naval architects that really, I wouldn't suggest as a journeyman, but I'm involved in a lot of different sectors, a lot of different interesting projects. Really, the beginnings of the institution sort of started in 1791 in London. There was a Society for Naval Architecture where like-minded people got together. There was an advancement in ship design and hydrodynamics, and there was a competition part of international trade, which UK in particular had to focus on. We fast forward to around about 1860, and in that interim you've got industrialists, and entrepreneurs such as Isambard Kingdom Brunel, Scott Russell, the designer of the Great Eastern. But if we move slightly back to Kingdom Brunel and the SS Great Britain, that first transatlantic steamer and the design that went into the ironclad vessel was absolutely phenomenal. So you then move forward to sort of 1861, and you've got William Froude, one of these industrialists that worked very closely with Brunel and Scott Russell, that came up with his paper, sort of the rolling of ships. It was the first paper to sort of be discussed at the institution. Part of that was looking at the resistance and the resistance of water across the hull, and then the Froude number that came out of that, which is basically that dimension, this ship speed versus ship length dimension that we still use today, is extremely effective. The institution first received its Royal Charter in 1910. This was further supported by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1960, that continues to this day by our current patron, King Charles III. I arrived as Chief Executive in 2020, and the organisation, extremely fantastic position. A global organisation in over 92 countries, 36 branches and divisions, NGO status at the moment. But we're facing that transition. Every so often in the institution we go through an evolution phase. Now we're in the middle of the digital revolution. So part of the job is looking at how we then move into the digital age. That means improving our communication and the services we offer, not just to our members, but the maritime community. We face many challenges at the moment, I'd like to say opportunities within the maritime sector, certainly in the field of naval architecture. The institution's actively involved with the IMO, focusing on the 2050 net zero target to reduce shipping emissions. That alone brings its own challenges to do with alternate fuels, ship design, regulations and assurance. Moreover, we then look at the environment and what's required for, say, offshore renewables and the advancement of that sector, autonomy, artificial intelligence. These challenges are extremely exciting for a naval architect. That's what we are. We're entrepreneurs. We're thought leaders. We need to encourage future generations to come into this. This is an exciting time to come into our sector. So part of the role of the institutions, we provide that position. We provide that link for academia and industry to come together and discuss the future trends, the emerging markets. Where do I see RINA being by the time I've finished? Certainly as a centre of excellence for naval architecture and maritime engineering, as the top table influencer at all government and peak body activity globally.